Tattoos. They're more popular than ever, and the taboo about tattoos in society is fading. But should a gentleman get a tattoo? Can a tattoo, or many tattoos, be part of a modern, gentlemanly aesthetic? Or is it still more respectable, handsome, and elegant to leave your skin exactly as it is? Gentlemen, that's the question we answer in today's video. Hello, my name is James, and I'm on a mission to create a generation of gentlemen. Today's video was inspired by a conversation that took place in our Gent Z community. If you'd like to be involved in conversations like this, you can join the community today using the first link down below. As a member, you'll get to take part in our twice-weekly video call cocktail hours with me. To have an informed opinion about tattoos, it's important to understand the history of them. Although tattoos might seem like a modern phenomenon, humans have been marking their skin with ink all around the world for thousands of years. And even in modern society, it might surprise you to learn that tattoos didn't just become acceptable a few decades ago. In fact, back in the 1870s, the upper classes of London and even some members of the royal family enjoyed tattoos. As you may know, sailors have a long tradition of being tattooed, and their body art became the subject of envy for Britain's high society. Now, that trend didn't last long, but it goes to show that attitudes toward tattoos will always change with the times. Tattoos really became popular in the US in the late 1970s and early 80s. In fact, between 1975 and 1980, the number of professional tattoo artists working in the US increased by nearly 100 times. And while tattoos used to be associated with subcultures like bikers or rockers, tattoos are now completely mainstream. In fact, having a tattoo is about as vanilla as listening to Ed Sheeran and watching The Bachelor. Currently, 27% of men have at least one tattoo. Women, on the whole, are actually more tattooed at 38%. Despite the acceptance of tattoos in the mainstream, there is still a negative correlation between tattoos and levels of education and income. If there's one man who proves that a gentleman can have tattoos, it's David Beckham. The footballer turned model and entrepreneur is an excellent case study of a man who is renowned for being a modern gentleman, but who has covered his body in ink. Beckham has over 60 tattoos, including pieces in highly visible places like his hands and his neck. Meanwhile, he enjoys dressing in a traditional, gentlemanly way. This contrast between his classic, sartorial choices and the edginess of his tattoos is what has created his highly distinctive personal aesthetic. And I think his conduct shines so brightly and his overall presentation is so clean that nobody would accuse David Beckham of not being a gentleman just because of his tattoos. In fact, tattoos have helped him create a memorable personal brand. I wonder if he would have had so many high-paying modeling jobs without them. And as far as Beckham's sex appeal with the ladies goes, I have no doubt that the tattoos have contributed to his popularity. Studies have shown that men with tattoos are perceived as healthier, more dominant, and more masculine by women. But there is a flip side to these findings, which I'll get onto in a moment. Anecdotally, I can confidently say I would probably get more female attention if I had tattoos. And I've noticed how women will initiate conversations with men about their tattoos and even use them as an excuse to break the touch barrier. Now I want to take a look at another case study in the argument for and against tattoos. That is the character of James Bond. For the last 60 years, Bond has been the international ambassador of all things gentlemanly. His style and mannerisms have inspired millions of men around the world to be more of a gentleman. Neither the character of James Bond nor any of the actors who have portrayed him have worn a tattoo on screen. The only Bond actor to have a tattoo was Sean Connery, who had a Navy tattoo on his forearm. However, this was covered up by Eon Productions, who decided that their Eton-educated spy would never do such a thing. Even as tattoos have become more and more mainstream, we are yet to see a tatted Bond, and personally, I'm more than okay with that. The male archetype that James Bond fits into is a very classic archetype. It's the Cary Grant, the urbane, sophisticated gentleman. And while tattoos fall in and out of fashion, a gentleman is more interested in a timeless look. You could argue that a gentleman should not have tattoos for the same reasons he shouldn't wear streetwear, have piercings in his face, or speak in slang. It's simply not the classic way, and when I look at modern celebrities whom I consider to be a gentleman, Henry Cavill, Benedict Cumberbatch, Roger Federer, no tattoos in sight. Although tattoos are now mainstream, scientific research proves that they still alter the way you are perceived. I mentioned the study earlier about women's perceptions of tattoos. Well, although they perceived inked men as more healthy and dominant, they also perceived them as less likely to be a good partner and a good father. In another study, participants were shown images of a person with an arm tattoo, and then an image of the same person but with that tattoo digitally erased. The ones with tattoos were rated more negatively on character attributes than those without. And even participants with tattoos themselves still looked down on others with tattoos. Although it is less taboo than before, there is no doubt that having a tattoo still can have a negative impact on your professional life. And even if you think that is wrong, as I do, you cannot control other people's perceptions. 77% of sales managers believe that salespeople with visible tattoos have a harder time closing than those without visible tattoos. 87% of employers in the hospitality industry report that visible body modification is negatively perceived. And employees view colleagues with facial tattoos and piercings as less suitable for work that requires interaction with a customer. If you want to read up on these findings a little more, you will find the link to these studies in the description. I encourage men to make an effort to look their best, and I consider dressing well to be a sign of respect to others. Tattoos, on the other hand, could be interpreted as disrespectful. At a bare minimum, they are a distraction, especially if you're in a position of authority like a lawyer, a doctor, or a teacher. And you don't know how your tattoos are going to be perceived until that interaction has already happened. So if you have a job interview and you don't get the job, you'll never know if that was because of your tattoos. Now, if you don't have tattoos, that's one less uncertainty to contend with. No tattoos will always be the baseline. It's important to note that some tattoos are more or less gentlemanly than others. As we were debating this topic in the Gent Z community, many of us arrived at the same conclusion, which is this. If you're going to get a tattoo, get one in a place that can be easily covered up. A tattoo on your face is going to have much more of a negative impact on the way you're perceived than one on your upper arm. I recommend that you only get tattoos that will be completely covered when wearing a suit and tie. That way you can look like the pinnacle of respectability and professionalism when you need to. As well as the placement of the tattoo, its design can affect whether or not it is a gentlemanly thing to wear. Anything profane or showing nudity is a definite no-no if you want to be a gentleman. On the other hand, if you're in the Navy, I don't see anything wrong with having a classic sailor tattoo. I see the argument that tattoos can be a way to commemorate an achievement or to honor a person or a place that's important to you. Just be cautious that this is a much more permanent way of doing that than, for example, buying a watch and having it engraved. Whether or not you are a gentleman does not come down to anything so superficial as whether or not you have a tattoo. The most classic option for a gentleman would be to have no tattoos. Tattoos don't really fit into classic menswear, hairstyles, and grooming. But breaking the rules and doing your own thing might be the very reason you want to get a tattoo. And just like David Beckham, you might enjoy that dichotomy between a respectable way of dressing and the more rebellious nature of body art. Gentlemen, I think it's time to hear from you in the comments. Do you have any tattoos? What do you have? Or if you don't have any tattoos, why not? Personally, I've never found the aesthetic particularly appealing, and it doesn't fit in with the overall image that I like to cultivate. I'm very glad personally that I've never decided to get any. I know this has been said before, but You don't put a bumper sticker on a Bentley. However, I do not judge people who have tattoos, and as far as I'm aware, I do not treat them any differently. With regards to women, my preference is for no tattoos, but it's not a deal breaker. I know many gents who watch this channel, however, are very much turned off by women with tattoos. If you would like to share some images of your tattoos, you can do so by joining the Gent Z community. You will find the link down below where we will continue this discussion. If you're wondering what video to watch next, how about this one on 7 items you should buy for life? Spoiler alert, tattoos are not one of them. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in this video.